Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm Richard and this is Lap of the World. After a couple of weeks of working on the Lamborghini, we've got the NSX back in the garage as we are in the final stages of getting it ready to go down to Circuit of the Americas. Really looking forward to getting on to my first modern Formula One track. I've been to Sebring, which hosted a race in the 50s, but as far as what anybody really watching this in the modern age would think of as a Formula One track, this will be our first. So look forward to that in the weeks to come. In the meantime though, I'm actually going to make a short video today, just kind of addressing some questions. I've started to get some questions in the comments on some old videos, asking me how things have held up that I've done on the NSX. Several 2020 mid-quarantine projects, as well as a couple of things prior to that. So today we're going to take a look and see how the seat covers are holding up after a couple of years, actually since mid-2019 for those. Then we're going to take a look at the where I refinished the engine cover in the back. And we've got a little extra detail and trivia on that as well. See how that's holding up. And then we're going to look at the LED headlights and see how those are doing. Again, I've gotten kind of several questions, people asking or wondering about the longevity and how those things hold up. So without any further ado, we're going to jump right into it. Let's go take a look at these seats, starting from oldest to newest. All right, looking at our seat covers, again, these were from righties.com. You'll see a link to that video in the upper right corner at this point in time if you want to go and watch it. But these have held up pretty well. I mean, you're going to see the worst places that you would see wear on an NSX seat would be these bolsters, and then also at the flex joints down here. And you can see those still look pretty mint. I probably haven't been as good as I should have been about keeping these things up. I will, as soon as I turn this camera off, probably go back and put a little leather food on them before we take off for Texas. But those have held up very nice. The perforated leather in the center has been a boon, especially in the southeastern summers here. But yeah, no, those have held up great. So I think we can probably move on. I mean, the TLDR there is, 2 years early, whatever, I guess it would be 2.5 years later at this point. And how many miles since then? Probably getting on to like 25,000 miles of use there and quite a few events. And they're still looking pretty mint. Moving further back in the car, but forward in time, one of the first things I tackled kind of mid-quarantine was refinishing this engine cover. At the time, if I had done this, my hand would have come up covered in black flocking material, or what I suspected was black flocking material. And as you can see, it doesn't leave any kind of, there's no deposit or flakiness to it now. Now originally, again, the finish from this from the factory would have been flocking, which should have been like an adhesive layer and then kind of a static electricity applied fuzz, basically, in kind of an individual fuzz basis. But what came off of my car was definitely a sheet of material, so I have to assume it had been redone once before, and that's how I redid it this time. So this is, again, like a sheet of material, whereas the original finish would have been actually applied flocking. However, as you can tell by the lack of fuzz on my hand and the general lack of any of too many wrinkles or crinkles or anything else on this, it has held up nicely. It's not pulling up in any area or flaking off, so that has done well. Again, a link to that video will have probably been in the upper right. And last but not least, one of the more common questions I've gotten is how have the headlights held up. This is pretty much a yes or no answer, I guess, but yeah, so we've still got both low beams fully intact. Let's turn on the high beams and see what we get from that. We have both of those still, I think. Yep. And those have covered now, so we've done a pretty significant amount of night driving with those. Like you can see, I just went through and cleaned off the lenses recently, but yeah, those have held up pretty well. The Basla units have done pretty well. I've got, again, a link to that video in the upper right. But I think we've done, for some context there, we've done, I mean, we did our entire trip in out to Oregon and back in 2021, and included some significant night running periods there, especially on the California and back leg. So yeah, and honestly, they've been great, and I don't think we haven't gotten flashed of anybody being offended by them at all, because I did take the time to actually properly aim them. They're in a low car, and by most accounts, they match the form factor of the incandescent bulb pretty well that they're replacing. So you kind of get the pattern that you're supposed to, so you're not blinding oncoming traffic. But that is kind of a quick summary of of how things have held up. I haven't had to really futz with anything. I think there are, yeah, I mean, again, I need to probably put some leather food on the seats. The lights have needed absolutely zero maintenance, and I don't even know that I've, which is, I mean, it's kind of what you want. I haven't had to even think about the engine cover carpeting now since I installed it. So yeah, just some quick updates today. Again, just for kind of some context there, we're probably looking at around 25,000 miles of use on the seats. The headlights have definitely seen probably not quite that much, probably like 15 to 20,000 miles of use. I put those on in kind of late 2020, and then early 2021 was a lot of maintenance. That was all the major service series that I did when I was doing the timing belt, water pump, valve covers, and so on and so forth. That, I guess, as well, I should say, I've done now, several track events between the end of 2021 and now starting to head down to places in 2022. We did an entire, lap of the country, including a track day out in Oregon Raceway Park. That was I think 8,000 something miles in total, including the track event. And we haven't had any issues out of the motor. Again, the only thing that we kind of had go wrong there was the our axle boot issue. And again, that where I have then replaced those, they've held up fine since then. It's only been a year. You would expect as much. But those are some quick updates. If there are any projects that I've missed that you would like answers to, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to tell you what I can. I just figured I would make this very short video as I'm getting the car ready to start our track season this year, to kind of catch up on some stuff for people that were interested. But if hopefully you've gotten something out of this, or it's answered a question that you may have considered putting in a comment but didn't have the time to. Anyhow, though, thanks for watching. I'm Richard. This is Lap of the World, and we'll see you in the next video, if not down at COTA.